Hi, welcome to CircleFellowship.com. I'm Trey Ragsdale, and my fellow partners join me in a moment. It's Tom McLeod. The question of the day is servant leadership a catchphrase of the 21st century? Is servant leadership a catchphrase of the 21st century? That is the question of the day. Think about it for a moment. We as a society, we as business leaders, we as political leaders, we as community leaders and church leaders, we as men, leaders in our family, we always identify ourselves as being a leader. A servant leader. We think about that for a second, that in a perfect world, there will be no servant leaders, there will be servant followers. And that is a subject we want to discuss today with you, about the meaning of servant followership. And that is really, as a church, as a society, as Christians, we should be really focusing on being a servant follower versus being a servant leader. I got a couple of quotes here tonight I wanted to share with those. One comes from Mark 9:35. It reads, "And he sat down, called the 12, and said to them, If anyone desires to be first, he shall be last of all, and servant of all." Again, nothing about leadership, but about being a servant. If you read throughout the Bible never really mentions a leader. It mentions being a follower. And it makes me think of two favorite musicians of mine. One of them, who said Bob Dylan, he said, "Jesus tapped me on the shoulder and said, 'Bob, why are you resisting me?' I said, 'I'm not resisting you.' He said, 'You gonna follow me?' I said, 'I never thought about that before.' He said, 'When you're not following me, you're resisting me.'" How prevalent is that for being a servant follower? Also, Oak Ridge Boys, another great music group, said, "Nobody wants to play rhythm guitar behind Jesus. Everybody wants to be the lead singer in the band." And that is the complex question we have today. Is servant leadership a catchphrase of the 21st century?
That's wonderful, Trey. I tell you, the words from the Oak Ridge Boys, that just absolutely fires me up. I'm telling you, that gets my juices flowing. And as Trey was saying, really, the Bible doesn't talk about man being a leader, particularly in the New Testament. Even in the Old Testament, when it talks about Moses leading the people out of Israel, the Bible takes turns. It says God led the people out of Israel, Moses led the people out of Israel.
Right.
So here we are, Jesus Christ himself in Matthew 23, and this is the New American Standard Version of the Bible, so it's a word-for-word translation, says the following: "But they," meaning men, "do all their deeds to be noticed by men, for they broaden their phylacteries and lengthen the tassels of their garments, and they love the place of honor at banquets, and the chief seats in the synagogues, and respectful greetings in the marketplace, and being called by men rabbi," or now deacon is the way they've changed it. We'll talk about that in a second. But Jesus Christ said, "But do not be called rabbi, for one is your teacher, and you are all brothers. And do not call anyone on earth your father, for one is your Father, he who is in heaven. And do not be called leaders, for one is your leader, that is Jesus. But the greatest among you shall be your servant. Whoever exalts himself shall be humbled, and whoever humbles himself shall be exalted." So we have now in our church, in the Baptist church, they've almost turned deacons into rabbis, where they're like leaders. Timothy says it is a good thing to seek out the office of deacon or elder. Mm-hmm. However, deacon means servant. And I think maybe we should change the word to servant. And these are things that people want to seek out. As I sit here today, there's books written by Christian authors that are extremely popular, maybe the most popular author on, quote, Christian leadership. And it says in there, in the book, I read it, it says, "Look behind you and see who's following you." And what a shame that is, because that puts pressure on me and you to try to find followers for ourselves, when Jesus Christ told us in the Great Commission to go make disciples. And disciples are followers of guess who?
Jesus Christ.
Jesus Christ, not us. So I'll close this one final thing, and this all goes back to the motivation of nobody wants to play rhythm guitar behind Jesus. Everybody wants to be the lead singer in the band. That's what this is all about. Why we want to be called leaders, and why we have leadership summits at our church to rub our egos and our flesh and make us feel good about ourselves. But all it does is glory us. It's the same thing that Satan himself did before he got kicked out of heaven. And here's the verse in 1 Corinthians 10:31. Whatever then you eat or drink, or whatever you do, do all for the glory
Glory
of God, not ourselves.
Have a great day.